let's just look at the progression of that behavior. It's very interesting because some weeks ago I did this forum with Professor Tuli Madansela at Parliament. One of the examples that were brought up was the fact that if you look at your visceral integrity and you say to yourself, okay, I go to work, at the workplace, and I perhaps take a pen and some pages for my kids at home. I brought it back from the office. I took a pen from the office for my kids at home. But that behavior is seen as taking, but that was actually stealing. But it wasn't stealing because it was acceptable to take a pen.
Exactly.
But then again, that type of behavior is the start of an integrity lapse and collapse of the entire system down the line. Likewise, you're saying that starting at home early with the kids, it's the start of a chain of events as we go along. And then that might even migrate to something else, directly into abuses, because of the desensitization only does one thing. Desensitization does not go the other way. It only piles on top of each other, making the tinted window thicker to see through than it ever was. Nobody strips away those layers.
Exactly.
You need professionals to strip away layers.
We need parents to strip away the layers. We need parents to take responsibility for their children, not only for their health care, which, by the way, meat is now linked to the same kind of danger that tobacco poses to humans. Meat is the new cancer drug. They say it's more dangerous than tobacco. So they're already parents aren't taking responsibility for their children's health. They would give them an aspirin, baby aspirin, or flu medication or antibiotics or what have you. You can prevent all of that just by feeding your kids healthy plant-based food. All of the sicknesses that we suffer as humans can be linked back to factory farming and eating animals and the animal agriculture industry. So it's your children's health and well-being, it's your children's psychological well-being, it's your children's emotional well-being. All of these are interlinked, and that's simply being broken down by one thing: what is on the end of your fork. Because we as parents, I'm not saying that people who feed their kids meat don't have any regard for animals whatsoever, but I do say there's a definite disconnect. Most people would teach their children it's wrong to kick a cat or a dog, or to abuse a mouse, or to set a chicken on fire, or whatever the case might be. But then we give them a conflicting message by saying, here's a dead animal, it's perfectly okay to eat it. So there's a conflicting message, and is it any wonder then that we're sending broken adults into the world? Because first of all, we are lying to them about where the food comes from. We're giving them contradictory messages, and we're feeding them a product that's not only unhealthy to them, but unhealthy to the environment that they live in.
I think that's a very interesting breakdown that you're giving us around all of that. Nikki, I think that one thing is also prevalent here, and that is that when you're talking about desensitization and the images that we see are coming across, I'm very concerned about one aspect related to all of that, and that is, how does one start the desensitization process? Is it through what you're doing today? Is it through the education process? We need to start somewhere. And if you're saying that parents are the ones starting that, out of the idea that they themselves are not aware because they've been brought up, so this is a generational issue and a transference of generational knowledge, traditions, behavior that then makes up the behavior of a particular individual. They might not end up going to kill somebody, but surely they're on the same path of desensitization that you're referring to. Where do we start breaking the layers down is the question I have.
There is no more excuse for parents.
I need to stop you for one moment. If you think it's about getting people at this moment to say that, oh, I'm bringing up my kids the wrong way, is that really the starting point?
No. I would say the starting point is your own behavior. You have to look at, okay, we live in the age of the internet. There's absolutely no excuse anymore to say this is a generational issue. The information is out there, it is readily available. You need to be willing to get out of your comfort zone. Years and years and years of indoctrination of saying you need to eat meat, you need to, eat the flesh of dead animals in order to survive or be healthy or be happy or whatever the case might be. You need to get out of that comfort zone because information is no longer, the lack of information is no longer an excuse. So it starts with the parent, not necessarily with the baby. The parent saying, listen, I'm going to get out of my comfort zone. I know that eating animals is unhealthy, it destroys my environment and it destroys my spiritual and emotional well-being, and I don't want this for my child. Instead of saying it's just too much effort to cut meat and animal products out of my diet, but we've always done it before. By the way, that's one of the most dangerous phrases you can ever say, is we've always done it that way. A lot of things have changed since we've always done it that way. So why not make the change, simple change every day about what you eat. So it starts with the parents and being willing to get out of your comfort zone, and only then you can take those values and give it to your child and send your child into the future with those values, and your child will pass on those values to their children, to their children, to their children.
You talk much about the fact of changing that dynamic and that understanding, and you speak about the fact that people talk about, well, we need the protein, so we need to eat the meat, or otherwise you're going to not have this vitamin, that vitamin. And you're right, that's what people do say. You might be a classical example of not eating meat. Can we just roll the tape on that and see where your life has gone by being meatless?
I
know it's years now.
Yes, I was vegetarian for 18 years before I became vegan 8 years ago, and let me tell you, being vegan or making that choice to go vegan has changed my entire life. I was a selfish, neurotic, self-absorbed party girl. It was all about me, my survival, climbing the corporate ladder, amassing material things, success, look at me. And then when I turned vegan and I became more aware of
Wait, when did you become vegan?
I became vegan.
You were vegetarian first?
Yeah, I was vegetarian for 18 years first.
18 years?
Yeah. And I went
from what age? We're not trying to work out your age.
That will give my age away.
We're not trying to work out your age.
From the age of about 16, 17.
16, 17.
Yeah.
What was the defining moment? Let's start there, because 16, 17, not an easy choice. You still want to hang out with your friends at the latest diners and stuff like that. So what makes you change your mind then?
I always tried vegetarianism when I was a teenager, because it was like such a hip, cool thing to do, and I was a little drama poetry kid, the avant-garde kid. So not eating animals, being a vegetarian was like, wow. But I
so it was a cool thing at the time.
It was a cool thing at the time.
You weren't highly conscious of it all.
No, it had nothing to do with animals and the environment or health or anything. It was just a teenage. It's a cool thing.
Well, there's one way to go about this. Okay, before you get to the activism part, it's cool.
Yes, it was cool. But it didn't last long. It lasted for 3 days before I just had to have my red meat, because
3 days?
Yeah, 3 days it would last, and then I would eat my red meat, and then I'm vegetarian again.
That doesn't qualify.
That was before I went vegetarian.
It's the starting blocks.
Yeah, it was the starting blocks. I came from a family that we had to have red meat or meat 3 times a day and in between. And then I just finished school and I got a job as a waitress at a well-known fast food restaurant, and my very first order was a rack of spare ribs. And I've never had spare ribs before, and I looked at this on the plate.
Why do they call it spare ribs, by the way?
I don't know.
It's surely not spare.
It's a rib cage of a dead animal.
But it's not spare at all, it belongs to someone else.
I don't know. This is industry.
Yeah.
It makes it seem like it's okay to eat the ribs because they've got spare. Industry jargon and the way we talk. Remember I said the way we call things also.
Certainly if it was yours as the chef, it wouldn't be spare.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I saw these spare ribs on a plate, and it was a light bulb moment for me. I looked at this, and at that stage I was still very skinny, growing into my own skin, and saw my rib cage in the mirror, and I'm like, I made the connection. I'm like, nah. No, I'm sorry, I can't. And for me, that
was that the defining
instant.
moment? That's the conscientized moment for you?
Yes. So I stopped eating fish, chicken, and meat, but I still consumed egg and dairies.
And that went on now for years?
That went on for about 18 years.
So you meatless, how many years altogether?
Meatless, I would say 26 years.
26 years.
Vegan or animalist, let's put it that way, 8 years.
How's your health doing?
I have never been healthier in my life when I was vegetarian.
Well, when you say that, what do you mean? Because because I think that many people throw that term around saying I'm healthy, but what do you define as healthy? Is it the way that you feel? How do you get up in the morning, the energy?
Yes.
What are you talking about?
It's the whole tutti. It is, the physical health, having to go to the doctor or taking medicines. I don't do that. I don't take any supplements. I'm also talking about mental health and spiritual health. You've got to look at the whole package.
You
can
feel
have
comfortable in your skin?
Absolutely.
You're like
confident.
You're present all the time.
Absolutely. I always tell the story to people. 6 years ago, I ended up in hospital with meningitis, and I was submitted the Friday afternoon, 7 o'clock Sunday morning. I was discharged.
With meningitis?
After being admitted.
That's a quick turnaround.
Exactly. And the doctor at the stage looked at me, he says to me, he's never seen anything like it in his life. He cannot understand it. And I looked at him and I said to him, ha 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 ha, it's because I'm vegan. And that conversation snowballed into, a lot of the animal products that we have on our shelves, pumped full of antibiotics, hormones and chemicals from the animal agriculture industry, because animals are products, so they want to force growth so they can slaughter more and quicker and get more money in. Animals aren't allowed to have their normal growth. So along with this forced growth, which they inject the chemicals into the animals, comes illnesses, which would then be the antibiotics and the hormones and everything else. So when you go to a shop and you eat something innocuous, such as a piece of cake that has egg or butter or milk in it, you are actually ingesting antibiotics. You're ingesting a whole bunch of chemicals. So every single day that you eat animal products, you are ingesting antibiotics, or how I like to call it, overdosing on antibiotics, because you don't need the antibiotics because you're not ill. So as a vegan, I don't have any resistance in my body towards antibiotics, because my body doesn't get antibiotics every single day.
So the minute you take something, you respond
immediately.
immediately.
The minute they put that drip into my arm full of the antibiotics, my body reacted, and that helped me to healing much quicker. Also, the plants that I put in my body, the food that I put in my body, helps my body function optimally when it needs to heal itself. If you look at, let's take Bill Clinton as an example. After he had his heart attack, the doctor said to him, go plant-based. All these illnesses, your heart attacks, your liver disease, your diabetes, even acne, you change to a vegan diet, it changes. It changes. And that's what I mean in terms of, I had bad skin. That went away when I was vegan. I was constantly stressed. That went away when I was vegan. This whole thing is an entire circle. I sleep better because I have more energy. Because I have more energy, I stress less. Because I stress less, I sleep better, etc., etc. And this whole thing goes around. But it's not only about my own personal health. It's also how I started reacting towards other people. I mean, I was a pretty nasty young woman. Sharp tongue, didn't mind breaking. No, I'm being honest. Breaking people down. Extremely selfish. And when I became vegan and I became more conscious about how my actions impact animals, it spilled over into how my actions impact those around me. And I became so much more aware of my own behavior, and that changed me. And the decision that I made to stop consuming animal products, to change my behavior towards animals, my entire world changes, and I love the world that I live in, and I love who I am today.
Well, that's amazing. It talks about the fact that Nikki has made that change, and I think that we looked at that link between human behavior and the use of animal products and animal abuse. So I think in Nikki's story, for me, that is evident. The fact that she says she was this nasty, sharp-tongued lady, and then she goes on another diet, and then that all changes. Interesting throughout this is, please understand one thing, whether business likes this or not, most things are driven by industry, and business people say that they make business decisions. At times, do you think that those business decisions is in your interest? Is that in the interest of your health? I don't think so. Nikki comes back on the show to talk more about animal abuse, its linked to human behavior, and what we can do to change what we see wrong in society. Until next time, goodbye.